In 1996, Bear Grylls was at an altitude of 16,000 feet. The red light was on at the plane's door. Suddenly, the light turned green. A man opened the door and shouted loudly, "Go, go, go!" One by one, Bear's friends jumped down. Bear was a bit stressed, and he had cramps in his legs, but still, Bear looked down, took a deep breath, and finally jumped down with his parachute. Bear was vacationing in Africa with his army friends in 1996, and they had come to Zimbabwe for skydiving. Everything was going according to plan, but then a great tragedy struck Bear. As soon as he jumped from the plane, Bear fell at a speed of 200 kilometers per hour. 15,000 feet, 10,000 feet, 5,000 feet. Within a few seconds, Bear was just 3,000 feet above the ground and finally opened his parachute. But even after opening the parachute, Bear's speed did not decrease, and he was falling rapidly. Bear thought to himself, "Why isn't my falling speed decreasing? This is very strange." Then, Bear looked up at his parachute and saw something that completely panicked him. Bear's parachute hadn't opened properly in the air, and its ropes were completely tangled, which was why Bear's speed was not decreasing, and he was falling rapidly. Bear tried to straighten the parachute, but he failed. The ground was now clearly visible to him, and within a few seconds, Bear was about to crash down. Bear was now even more scared. He was very close to the ground. He tried to open his reserve parachute, but it was already too late. From an altitude of 16,000 feet, Bear crashed directly onto the ground. His speed was so high that he bounced off the ground like a dummy and fell far away, surrounded by a cloud of dust. Bear landed directly on his back, and the crash was so severe that it felt like someone had shoved a stone into his spine. Bear tried to stand up, but the pain was so intense that he couldn't even move properly. Bear was crying and screaming in pain, but there was nothing but desert all around him. In 2 hours, his friends arrived. They put him in a car and took him to the nearest hospital. Bear said that the pain had increased so much that he was writhing in pain and fainting repeatedly. It was only when the doctor gave him an injection at the hospital that the pain subsided. The next time Bear regained consciousness, he was on the runway of the airport. He was being taken back to the UK by flight on a stretcher. Bear was completely alone, and on the flight, he kept crying and cursing himself. Looking at himself, he thought, "What a big mistake you have made. Everything is over." Upon reaching home, Bear was admitted to the hospital, where he had an X-ray. The doctor came to him and said, "Bear, 3 main bones in your spine, T10, T11, and T12, are broken." Bear asked, "Doctor, will I be okay? Will I be able to walk again? Please tell me." But the doctor didn't give any answer. He said, "Look, we can't say anything right now. Surgery is not possible at this moment. The best thing to do is to wait and let you recover." Bear narrowly escaped being paralyzed. A large metal brace was attached to support Bear's back. The pain was so intense that even moving an inch from the bed was difficult for Bear. Even after 60 days of the accident, Bear was still lying on the bed in the same condition. He kept repeating that scene in his mind and said to himself, "You are such a fool. Instead of panicking, you could have landed the parachute slowly or opened the reserve parachute on time." 90 days after the accident, Bear came home from the hospital, but his condition was still the same. Bear, lying in bed, kept thinking, "Will I ever be able to join the army again? Will I even be able to walk again?" His eyes fell on a photo of Mount Everest. It had always been the dream of Bear and his father to climb Mount Everest, but Bear was not even in a condition to stand, let alone climb Everest. But then, Bear did something he himself did not expect. Despite having a metal brace on his back, Bear got up from his bed, somehow stumbled to the photo, took it down from the wall, and said to himself, "No matter what, I will not only walk again, but also climb the highest mountain in the world, Mount Everest." The target was almost impossible for Bear. The British Army had sent several missions to Everest, and only one of them had been successful. Even the successful mountaineers had narrowly escaped death, and some had to lose their fingers and toes in this journey. But despite all this, Bear decided that he would fulfill his and his father's dream. After 8 months of the accident and several weeks of lying in bed, Bear began to recover. But then, Bear faced another setback. After recovering, when Bear went back to his army regiment, the doctors told him, "Bear, unfortunately, you won't be able to parachute jump anymore because your spine could get injured again, nor can you lift heavy weights." Bear understood that with this injury, he could no longer continue in the army. He went to the regiment's colonel and said, "Sir, there's no point in me staying in the army now. With this injury, I can hardly do anything here. It would be better for me to resign." Bear resigned from the army, but now he had no job and no source of income. Even the lakhs of rupees he needed for the Mount Everest trip were not with him. For Bear, Mount Everest had now become a do-or-die mission.